to what it is we're doing today, and then I want to turn it over to the young people that we work with and let them do what it is they're doing. I'm Imhotep Adisa. Paulette Fair is out of town. She generally does this piece. She does it a lot better than I do it. She looks a lot better. It's a lot more polished, so forgive me if it's not what you come to love and learn. But her grandson was 2 years old. He needs her in D.C., so she hopped on a plane, and she's in D.C. doing what grandmothers do. Children first. So again, welcome to the Kepler Institute. Today we're doing our intergenerational conversation. The goal here is to introduce our young people and our seniors to people who are doing work in our community. We try to create a space where those subjects that others don't want to talk about, people don't mind coming here and feeling safe to have those kind of real talks. So, without any further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Rasul. I didn't say much about the other work, but feel free to hang around. Feel free to first talk to our young people about what we do here and why we do it. And then if there's any gaps in it, rarely is there, the older folks here will be here to try to fill in the gaps. When we get to the question and answer period, again, we would like for you to provide the youngsters an opportunity to ask their questions first. I know we're all here because this is an important issue, but we really want to drive home some challenges to have our young people lead the conversation when we can. So I'm looking for Rasul Zahir Palmer. Are you in the building? Oh, there he is. Hey, man, it's all yours. Thanks for coming out.
Hi, there's Rasul Palmer. Thank you for coming to our intergenerational luncheon that we had every Wednesday. Today we're going to be having a discussion with Mr. Osili over there. Today we're going to be discussing the ban-the-box issue, which is a ban against the need for people who have past convictions or any type of felony on their record of having to apply or check the felony box on applications. In doing so, they lose their chance of applying for the job. So, this is Mr. Osili, a City Council member of the 15th District of Indianapolis, Indiana. So right now, I'm going to have him introduce himself in very detail. And afterwards, we're probably going to watch a video, and after that, he's going to explain a little about himself.
Thank you for the introduction. Afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here at KI. It's the first time I've actually been in here since KI is occupied. I'm here to talk this afternoon about something called Ban the Box. And I'm going to give a little bit of background on it and the reason for it. And hope that, one, I can answer the questions that you might have, but hopefully make you all advocates of what we're trying to get done. Right here in Marion County, every year, between 4,500 and 5,000 people come back from jail or incarceration, right? So between 4,500 and 5,000 every year return to Marion County. Now, of those 4,500 to 5,000 individuals that come back to Marion County every year from jail or incarceration, between 52% go back to jail or prison within 3 years. So I want to repeat that. That is 1 out of every 2 individuals who's coming back to our county is going back to jail or prison within 3 years. This is an enormous issue for all of us who live in Marion County, and all of us who live in 5 particular zip codes here in Marion County, where a bulk of our returning men and women go home to. It is a problem because the biggest challenges to not going back to jail or prison have to do with employment, have to do with housing, have to do with transportation. And if we want to attack that number, we've got to look at those three issues pretty much right off the bat. Okay, so we've got a cost for incarceration anywhere in the range of $28,000 to $35,000 a year per person. If we want to look at this thing on the economic side, it costs taxpayers a lot of money to keep throwing people back into incarceration. But let's look at the positive side. When we find ways for people to stay in our community and not return, think about the positive things of having a brother or son, or a father or a mother back at home with their siblings, their children, taking care of their siblings, their children, their moms, their dads, working and producing money and putting money back into the economy. Not only talk about what they do when they're at home and the way that they can stabilize a home and stabilize those kids versus when they're not home and they're locked up. So there is this thing that is going around the country. It is called Ban the Box. And it deals with employment. It is a box on an application form. I just need a show of hands if anybody's ever seen this box on an application form that asks about your criminal history. Anybody ever seen one? Okay. Now, intuitively, you might say, if I am an HR person, an employer, and I'm about to look for candidates to hire, and I've got a pile here of boxes or application forms, some with checked boxes and some without checked boxes. I just want to ask you all, which one do you think I'm going to pay closer attention to? Which one is going to be probably the higher priority for me to go through first before the other?
The box.
The one without the box. Now, here's the thing. That box does not discriminate. That box really does not discriminate. You could be an habitual traffic offender, or you could be a violent whatever it is. And once you check that box, you're all lumped together. Do you follow what I'm saying? So whether you were a non-violent person who never bothered anybody else, you just didn't have your act together, or you went in and knocked some, got in somebody's house and knocked some heads together and broke stuff and all kinds of stuff, all under that one little check. All y'all lumped together. We don't even want to ask any questions. That is wrong. And let me tell you one other reason. Well, how are you doing? Let me tell you one other reason that not only do we see it as wrong on the City Council, but the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission also sees it as wrong. Do you all know why it is considered an act of discrimination to make a decision on a job hire based simply on criminal record? Anybody know? You don't care. You already know. Anybody know? Why would it be considered discrimination to have something solely or decisions solely based on your criminal history? Hiring decisions. Man.
Isn't it presumably that once you have done your time that you're rehabilitated and you're supposed to...
Boy, I wish it were that pure. Unfortunately, it's not. Let me explain to you. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission looks at it like so. Because there is a higher representation of people of color in the criminal justice system relative to the number of people in the population of color, when you make a blanket decision based solely on ex-offenders or criminal history, you are disproportionately targeting a minority population, a population of color, to the degree of almost 2 to 1. Which means then, when people say we don't hire people who've got criminal histories, that means we are less likely to hire a person of color, or we're more likely to hire a person not of color, 2 to 1 off the bat. And so that becomes an issue. It becomes an issue then of discrimination. And something called disparate treatment, but we'll get to that in a hot minute. Now, the City County Council, we understand that we want to be fair to everybody in our community, the people that we represent. And one way to be fair is to try and create a level playing field for everybody. That means that we don't need to know that you committed an offense 40 years ago to make a decision on something that has nothing to do with the offense that you might have committed. Do you follow what I'm saying? So think about it like this. I check a box, right? And I'm an habitual traffic offender. But the box I checked and the job I'm going for is in bookkeeping. Do you see any correlation? Is there any connection? Now, if you want to work for UPS, we got an issue. But if you want to check books or do something else managerial, nothing to do with it. So, what we decided to do on the City County Council is what a number of cities around this country have already done. We're actually late to the game. And it is eliminating that box on an application form. That first round, that basically is the decider whether or not you're even going to get an interview. And then we are banning it, any questions about your criminal background, and any question whatsoever about an arrest that did not lead to a conviction. That's off the table forever. By the way, you know, a lot of people do look and they ask questions about, have you been arrested for X, Y, or Z? Do you know that, right? You guys do know that, right? Now, people of color are arrested sometimes three times the rate, especially for drug charges, as people not of color. So if I ask you about your arrest record, well, and you're a person of color, so in our ordinance, which will be introduced on Monday, and which has bipartisan support even from the mayor, we will eliminate the box on all city contracts or all city government agencies, employment. We will require anybody who does business with the city of Indianapolis, so any vendor who provides any services to the city of Indianapolis, from asking that question. And right now we're working out the details on anyone that the city gives an incentive to, an economic incentive to, from asking the question on their application forms. Now, we wanted to take it all the way into the private sector. And let me give you some background on the Ban the Box initiative around the country. 53 cities in this country have already done it. That's 5-3. We'd be the first one in Indiana to do it. 53 cities have already a blanket ban on municipal government on any questions on a job application form. And generally, any question at a first interview. And 8 states. Minnesota, as a state, has already done it. So here we are in Indianapolis, in Indiana, we ain't done nothing. Well, that's ridiculous. Okay, so 53 cities have already done it. 8 of those 53 cities, by the way, have taken it from municipal government into the private sector. We tried to get it into the private sector at the end of last year. And we got a lot of positive responses from some of our corporate partners. The biggest holdup right now has been, and we're working through, we met last Friday, is with the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce represents 2,700 companies in Marion County and the surrounding counties. We know that for this to work in the private sector, places like the Chamber of Commerce have got to get behind it. Because otherwise, the pushback will make the ban the box issue not the principle behind the ban the box. And we're not trying to fight on this part of it, we're trying to get people jobs. So, right now where we stand, and this is the good part, let me just give you just a little bit of background. Corporate partners. Anybody pay a utility bill like that goes to Citizen Energy? Gas bill, sewer bill?
All of that. All of the above.
Okay, so at the end of last summer, right, when we started making those calls, I met with the head of Citizens Energy, a guy by the name of Kerry Likens. He's CEO, gets paid a lot of money, got a lot of employees. We met, and within 10 minutes, I'm going to give this man his props. Within 10 minutes, he said, you know, you're right. We will personally change our own hiring policies right now. I'll get with HR, and we'll get rid of the box. consider us an advocate. So we've used him, first of all, as a springboard. And the second meeting was with another big heavy hitter from back in the day, a guy by the name of Jim Morris. Jim Morris used to be ambassador to the World Food Program, used to be head of Lilly Endowment, now he's president of the Pacers. That, you know, man, walks real slow, but his mind is fast like a sprinter. He got up, within 10 minutes, and went to get his head of HR and brought her in and said, work out the process, get rid of the box. So we met with a number of other folks who had that same kind of initiative. But we haven't yet gotten through to our folks in the chamber to completely get behind it and push their members. Not a problem. But what we're doing on the council, and the leverage we're using on the council to say, if you do business with us in the city, if you're a vendor with us in the city, and as I said, we're working out the details, if we give you any kind of money, any incentive, you must remove the box. You must abide by our principles. No question on the first interview. Now, it is a right thing. You need to know what people, any kind of background, you do need to know, right? At a second interview, it's basically open season. But that means you've been called back because they like what they saw. Now, where I want to take this, and only about 3 cities have done it, is you don't even do a background check until a conditional offer of employment has been made. Which means then that the only thing between you and the employment is the background. That takes a lot of political leverage. We ain't there yet, but y'all just hang tight, all right? The main thing is, how do we use this, and this is what we want to get done, how do we make it easier for people to get employment? And so on Monday, as I said, it's called Proposal 4, it's the number 4 proposal for this year in the City County Council. And we're anticipating becoming the 54th city in the country to get it going. And then, once we're able to use that leverage, if the city's doing it, we can put pressure then on the rest of our companies in our county. The city is leading by example. We expect this from all of our corporate partners. Not just this one or that one, all of us, because we're all in this together. And when we can start to make the argument about the cost to our economy, the cost of public safety, when we are not employed. If I don't have a job, what am I going to do to support my family? What am I going to do to support the people who, or the public safety and criminal justice system, when I got to pay my fees, my drops, all these other things? What am I going to do? Am I going to do my mother? Am I going to do my wife? Am I going to ask my kid? At some point, they're going to get tired of it, and you're left then to your own devices. What then happens? So until we are actively seeking opportunities for people not only to be employed, but to make it easier for them to be employed, we're going to have this recidivism rate of 50+%. So, if I could just make a little tangent here. There are 2 or 3 other initiatives that tie into this. In October of 2012, we made an agreement, we got $3.5 million. $1.5 million for job training, and $2 million for microloans, right? To make it easier for individuals, one, to get more job training. Because there's no point in being offered a job or going after a job if you're not trained for it. And that's both the hard skills and the soft skills. That means learning not only what the job is, but this idea of you show up, and you show up on time on a regular basis. And you don't talk back to folks, and you got a good attitude, all the basic things that we expect. And oftentimes, we don't have that. Here's a statistic that I want you all to keep in mind. 40% of the people in our state prisons right now, 40%, it's actually 41.4%, but over 40% of the individuals in our jails right now, and prisons, read at a 6th grade level or less. Now, how in the world are you going to be able to provide, to compete, and to sustain a job if you read at a 6th grade level or less? So part of this idea of job training is linking individuals not only to training component, but then what is the job that we can lead you into? And that takes me back to citizens' energy. When I said, that people complain about, You know, our gas bill's going up, and you know, I'm complaining too. And our sewer bills and all the rest of it. But that is one group that has linked up these jobs, this $1 billion worth of new jobs or new opportunities, like infrastructure, working with the city and with a small contractor to attach job training to jobs. It makes no sense to have training and a certification hanging on your wall if it's not linked to a job. Do you follow what I'm saying? I can't eat that paper. You know what I'm saying? Now, if I can eat the paper, I get all kinds of certification, but I can't eat the paper. So all this is meaningless until we're actively working to make sure that jobs work with job training and are sustainable. And by sustainable, I mean that I've got the soft skills and the technical skills to do the job and to continue to do the job well and get along with my coworkers and be efficient and consistent. So the job training component launches, I think it launches next week, with $1.5 million. We're trying to link up with as many agencies as we can that are providing the job training that link to jobs. And then, here's a little something for y'all. Who in this room might want to be an entrepreneur? Oh, come on. I got one hand, two hands, come on. Y'all need to be dreaming over here now. Yeah. We fought for that daggone money now. I need some. All right, we got $2 million in it, and you all need to write this down. Who's got a pen? $2 million has been set aside in an entity called Business Ownership Initiative, BOI. All right? Y'all can Google it. And the lady who runs that is a lady by the name of Julie Grice. Now, Julie was able to leverage that $2 million and get another $500,000 even in this last year before we launched the campaign. Which means, and here's the thing, Business Ownership Initiative is geared for individuals who live in households that are at 75% of area median income. Now, who are the smart people in the room? All you smart people. What is the median income for a family of 4 in Marion County? 75% of that is approximately $30,000 to $32,000, which means if your household is making between let's say $30,000 to $40,000 a year, you got a family of 4. You qualify for a micro loan if you have a desire for entrepreneurship. They will not only walk you through this process, help you to develop the business plan, but walk with you as you develop that business. That is the intent that we've got now. How do we put more money back into our communities, those communities that need it the most? Now, did you hear what I just said? It's called BOI. And anyone who has an interest right now in starting a business, and I've already sent maybe 4 or 5 individuals over there to them. These microloans go from $5,000 to $50,000, right? Our intention is, of course, to continue to build the pot so this money is consistent and sustainable. But I don't want you all, too often in Marion County, too often I hear about opportunities that come that nobody takes advantage of. And so the money then goes back to wherever it came from because it was unused. Does everybody hear me? BOI, Business Ownership Initiative. If you have a desire and you're serious about wanting to grow a business, not just like to do it. If you are serious about growing a business, I need you to send me an email. I need for you to send me an email, and within 24 hours, I will have you connected with Julie Grice at Business Ownership Initiative for her then to set up with you time to go through the development of your business plan and talk about then what kind of money do you need. Are you hearing me? So, first of all, I'm going to give you my email address right now. It is V like Victor, O, P like Peter, O, S like Samuel, I-L-I. So it's my name, Va Osili, @gmail.com. All right? I don't want to see the way that we have it now.
Can you say it one more time?
Sure. It's VOP. V like Victor, O, P like Peter, O, S like Samuel, ILI, @gmail.com. We had to put something in the legislation that said, if the money is not used, if the money is not used within 18 months, then it goes to the entire county. That means that if I'm rolling in dough, I can also go after this money. You know, if my daddy, runs the whatever it is, I can still go after this money. That's not the intention of this.
What about nonprofits? That would be good, like.
It's not, we don't have that restriction. Our only thing is we want it to come from certain households. If you are in that household, that's where that money and that's where that initiative is directed. So just know that. So, bat in the box. If God is how can I say? If God will just be gracious to us, we will have the opportunity to increase the opportunities for individuals to get employment. And we can drop this particular bias that we have about people who have ex-offenses. And let me just leave you with one story. Last year, you all have heard of the expungement bill, right? Mm-hmm. Right? The governor signed into law went into law July 1 of last year. When the state house was hearing it and debating it, I was asked to bring some people who had criminal backgrounds to come and testify. So I brought 4 individuals. Let me tell you a story about one of them. I took a man who was 66 years old at the time. And this story is still, he's like the poster man or the poster boy of bias. I took a man who was 66 years old. He had committed an offense when he was 19. I think he might have robbed a convenience store or something. He served 7 years and got out when he was 26. So he got out when he was 26. Last year he was 66. That's 40 years, right? He testifies on a Wednesday. Get this right. He testifies on a Wednesday. And 2 things come out of his testimony. The first was the question that he asked the committee, which was a powerful question. And the second, I'll tell you in a moment. The question he asked, he gave his history. He talked about the fact that he'd raised 2 daughters. I think both of them went to college. He's a rep for a company that's headquartered here in Indianapolis. It's a national company headquartered here in Indianapolis. He's been a rep for them for 12 or 15 years. One of my own council colleagues gets his office's product from this man. He asked the question, he said, I've been out for 40 years. How long will I be considered an ex-offender? The House panel was the most pointed kind of question. That was Wednesday. Thursday, I was online looking at activities that were going on in the State House, and I ran across in one of the county online websites the story of this particular hearing. And this man, his story, his name, and the question that he raised. This is on Thursday. And I thought, wow, it did hit people because it was such a pointed question. If I'm right, it was Friday that he gets notice from a company he's been repping for 12, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Terminating his contract.
Wow.
Because it had just come to their attention that he had a criminal background.
Yep, I've heard of that before.
So,
All those years later.
I want to just say how important something like this is, that we have the audacity to drag in somebody's history from God knows how long and use it against somebody. When anybody who's over 18, I'm going to just say this, I'm going to say anybody who was over 18 never set foot outside of their mother's house, their grandmother's house, whatever it is, if you have not committed any kind of crime and you didn't get caught, I just want to know who you are, because I'm going to get you some water so I can see you walk on it. You know what I'm saying? Because the only difference between most of us and those people that we're talking about right now is that didn't get caught. So when I see this kind of thing, is I don't hire ex-offenders. A guy told us in a committee hearing, maybe about a month ago, he was asking for a tax abatement, and I asked him, what is your policy about hiring ex-offenders? Do you know, he had the audacity to look me in the eye and say, oh, no. We're not hiring any of them ex-felons. He soon regretted his comment. When I explained to him that, one, what he just said to me was discrimination, and discrimination was illegal. But this is the attitude the people have. Oh no, I'm not going to hire one of them. When the hell did they become one of them? Do you know what I'm saying? Once again, the only difference is they got caught and you didn't. And anybody who went to college, oh yeah, show me. Show me one person. Show me one person that is not worthy of having been locked up for quite a while. So remember that the importance of like redemption and second chances and gratitude. We need to be pushing for those very same things in any community that we are. Be it our ex-offenders, our homeless families, anything. Remember how blessed and how, just how lucky we are. And don't... So the idea, we want to get this passed. We want as much community support. I'm very grateful, as I said, that a week and a half ago, I had a Republican member of my council. 1:45 in the morning, I don't even know why he was up, first of all. I shouldn't be talking about him because I don't know why I was up. But I got an email saying, can I be a co-sponsor, of the ordinance? And I sent back a response, I'd be honored, of course. But we know we've got good support and, from the council, from the administration, and, I got a call from Fortune magazine because they're tracking all these cities and the progress of this. This is right. And then my buddy up in South Bend, he's a city councilor up there, heard about it, called me on the phone and said, hey man, send me your legislation. I want to introduce mine. So I said, okay, well, mine's coming up this Monday. So you're not introducing yours for a month. Let me explain that to you. I done worked on this, you ain't. So he's going to introduce his on this Monday too. Politicians to be paid. And I'm free to admit it. Main thing is, our focus is on how do we make it better for everybody across the board. So, with all that, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to ask if there are any questions. I'd love to be able to entertain some questions from anybody.
Yes, I do.
Bob, could you, when you answer the questions, look for the young people first.
Okay.
Go ahead and take care, because you said school leader.
I'm young.
Encouraging young people in the room to ask questions.
Okay.
You use some words and some acronyms that they may not understand.
Okay.
That's just my request.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Khalil. I'm sorry for that.
Thank you. This might be the same question, but my question is, what's two-part? What are your detractors saying, and what is the benefit for corporate? What is the corporate benefit to banning the box? Seems like to me it would be a benefit to. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
That's good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
What's the benefit?
Okay. I got something. There was something that this weekend, Indiana, whatever it is with Gary Dick. It's online.
Yeah.
Inside it.
Inside the Indiana business. Well, for whatever reason, there was somebody who did a little op-ed that was he was basically indicating that it should be the right of any employer to know at any point in time what somebody's criminal background is. I disagree. But that's the general idea. I think our employers feel that they will never have an opportunity to know what your criminal background is. And I feel like, at a second interview, if you call me back, it means there's something that is worthwhile. Imagine if that fellow I just told you about, the 66-year-old, had applied for a job, and he had checked that box, because he'd have to, otherwise he'd be lying, right? He had checked that box. He might not get an interview. But let's just say, the way we're doing it right now, on that first interview, he blows him away. And when they call him back for a second interview, he can say, you know what, I did do something. I did something 40 years ago. And since then, I done raised 2 kids, sent them to college, blah, blah, blah. There is a greater opportunity for me to hire him based on me knowing him and his credentials than it would have been if I looked at his application form that had on the cover a big old check. So, The detractors are saying things like, I need to know, why might we restrict that and so on. What is in it for the businesses is the talent pool that gets lost in that pile. That some of our greatest thinkers, some of our hardest workers are in that pile. And the stories, Mr. Coco here I'm sure could even say, some of the stories of the workers who come out of the criminal justice system, their desire to not mess up again is pretty doggone powerful. And let me say something else. There was a study done by two professors. One, his name is Nakamura. He's at the University of Maryland now. He used to be at Carnegie Mellon University. That indicated the likelihood of reoffense over time relative to the general population. Let me just say this. It's a graph. Is there any place to draw? Is something over here?
That's dry already.
Can I just draw something real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not a box.
Let me draw real quick. I don't want to mess up the artwork
No,
over
you
here.
can take it out. You're good.
Okay. So let's just say this y-axis right over here is a man at 18 years old. And let's just say this is what, 23, 28, 33, 38 years old, all right?